Hello everyone. In this session we are going to see different options with DBCC CheckDB. We are going to see what are the validation checks as part of CheckDB. Also, in case of corruption, what are the different options we can use with DBCC CheckDB. So let's start with one of the frequently asked questions, how much space we need in TempDB to run CheckDB. So it's kind of difficult to estimate, but there are ways we can do that. You can set no count on, and let's say you are doing it for AdventureWorks, a sample database, then you can execute DBCC CheckDB AdventureWorks with estimate only. So this is computed as a worst case estimate and assumes there will be no room in memory for any sort of operations required. So not necessary your TempDB is going to be get utilized, or its CheckDB is going to make it full. So kind of worst case scenarios, you don't have any memory left and it has to use TempDB as no other option left. So by with estimate only option, you can kind of get the estimate how much space it may need in TempDB. Validation checks. SQL Server includes a set of logical validated checks to verify that data is appropriate for columns data type. All new databases created in and after SQL Server 2005 have the data purity logical validation enabled by default. For upgraded databases, you must run the DBCC CheckDB with data_purity option once, preferably immediately after the upgrade. So you can execute the command as DBCC CheckDB dbname with data_purity. After the purity check completes without any errors, performing the logical validations is the default behavior in all future executions of DBCC CheckDB, and there is no way to change this default. You can override the default by using physical only option. So what it does? Physical only option skips the data purity check, but also skips any checks that have to analyze the contents of individual rows and data, and limits the checks that DBCC performs. So you are troubleshooting a corruption scenario, and you always have the question in your mind, what are the DBCC repair options? There are 3 DBCC repair options: repair allow data loss, repair rebuild, and repair _fast. This is a kind of a legacy option, and it is kept just for backward compatibility. Almost all errors can be repaired with DBCC CheckDB, but there are some kind of exceptions to it, and those are DBCC check catalog errors, data purity errors found through DBCC check table. Those cannot be fixed. When you run DBCC CheckDB with one of the repair options, SQL runs DBCC check catalog and repairs what it can. Then runs DBCC check table on all tables and makes the appropriate repairs on all the tables. List of repairs are ranked to avoid duplication of effort. That is, rebuilding an index, then removing a page from a table would be duplicate effort. Repair allow data loss option. SQL Server tries to repair almost all detected errors. For almost any server error, some data will be lost when the repair is run. Rows may be deleted if they are found to be inconsistent, such as when a computed column value is incorrect. Whole pages can be deleted if checksum errors are discovered. Some errors SQL Server won't even try to repair, particularly if the GAM or SGAM pages themselves are corrupt or unreadable. During the repair, no attempt is made to maintain any constraints on the tables or between tables. So I'd be very careful executing repair allow data loss option. In fact, this could be one of the last options I would think of. And in case you have a data loss, obviously I'd make sure my backups are intact, they are in place, and you should be in position to restore from the backup in case you use the repair allow data loss option, you have the data loss. Next option, repair rebuild. Minor, relatively fast repair actions such as repairing extra keys in a non-cluster index. Time-consuming repairs such as rebuilding indexes can be performed without risk of data loss. After successful completion, database is physically consistent and online, but may not be in a logical consistent state in terms of constraints and business rule. So as a note, it's very important to know that these repair options should be used as a last resort. Restore the database from backup instead. Because if you are going to lose more data, there is no point in trying multiple repair options. You can run the repair options for DBCC inside a user-defined transaction, which means you can perform a rollback to undo the repairs. This is really a good news. And there is a kind of exception when you are running the repair option on a database in emergency mode. If repair in emergency mode fails, you really cannot do anything but restore the database from the backup. Each individual repair in a DBCC operation runs in its own system transaction, which means that if a repair is not possible, it will not affect any other repairs. Another FAQ we always see, that is, how often should you run DBCC Checkdb? So there is no single best schedule for how often to run Checkdb. You have to understand how much risk you are willing to take and balance that with the impact of running Checkdb. On systems that are not used 24 hours a day, where Checkdb is able to complete during the low or kind of less use period, maybe you run it every week or even every day. On systems where Checkdb cannot complete within a downtime slow period, then either you take the performance hit or you run it less frequently. So you have to check this with your application users and the business and come to a kind of acceptance state where the schedule would be acceptable for both the parties. How much time does a DBCC Checkdb take? And there is not any correct answer to it, and it all usually depends based on your prior experience and your schedule, the load on the database size. So when you execute it a couple of times, you definitely come to know how much it took, and that would be your estimate to start with. Let's go through those factors in detail. The size of the database. It's not the size of the database that matters, it's the amount of data that is in it. So a 1 terabyte database with only 100 MB of data can be consistency checked very quickly. But if the same database contained 1 terabyte of data, it would take longer for DBCC Checkdb to execute. Load on the system. DBCC Checkdb is extremely resource hungry. It's the most resource intensive operation you can run on SQL Server. Therefore, if the server is already heavily loaded, DBCC Checkdb will be competing for resources and will take longer to run. The options specified. Let's say you are running with physical only option. The amount of processing that DBCC Checkdb does is drastically cut down. So it may lead to significant low amount of time. The corruptions that are found. Some corruptions require deeper reprocessing of data to figure out exactly where the corruption is. This can lead to a much longer runtime for DBCC Checkdb. The TempDB configuration. DBCC Checkdb uses a lot of memory as we discussed earlier, and it uses that to store intermediate consistency checking data, and that storage usually spills out to the TempDB database. If TempDB isn't configured in the right way, that could be a bottleneck for DBCC Checkdb to slow down. But no worries, we have some points here which you can consider so DBCC Checkdb runs faster. So instead of running it for every database every night, maybe run it for half the database one night and remaining next night. Do one database in a night, either round robin equally, or do more important ones more frequently. Check individual tables with check table and don't do them all at once. Check one partition at a time with check file group. Run Checkdb more frequently on data that changes frequently and less often on less frequently updated or less important data. For more points and detailed instructions, you can always register at TechSQL, and you will see a video over there with complete fine-tuning instructions for Checkdb, which are really helpful. So I would encourage you to go ahead and register on TechSQL and take advantage of the all valuable knowledge over there. Thank you.